right, it's Friday, and of course, it's another edition of the World Edition, and we're going to see what's happening in the world and around the world. I do know that a lot of folks that have been following the war in Ukraine will be glad to know that the U.S. has approved sending F-16s to Ukraine from Denmark and Netherlands once the pilots are trained. So they are definitely committed to approving the F-16s, and definitely that could be a turn in the war once we have the training going on and all along those lines. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in that space. And of course, the Ukraine offensive will fail to reach Melitopol, according to U.S. intelligence. That is what the Washington Post is saying, but we'll see if that is the case or not. But that is definitely something that we're seeing in the news as well. And like I said, Sasha Starr may be joining us later, and he may have some more thoughts around this. And of course, he's got his show at 11 o'clock about Ukraine, Russia, and China. So we're going to see what happens in that regards. And of course, there'll be conversations going on in that way. And a cargo ship from Ukraine's Odessa port has reached Istanbul. So that is something that we are seeing there is a video that Newsweek and other media have showing a huge fire engulfing the cargo terminal in the Russian Black Sea port. So definitely it looks like Ukraine is seeking to restore Black Sea shipping despite Russian threats. So that is something else that we are seeing in the news and around the news and all along those lines. Looks like the U.S. is pushing Guatemala to hold democratic elections. So Guatemala's Arvelo is casting the election as a turning point and saying that he is eyeing that top prize. So definitely it looks like Bernardo Arvelio could help even with U.S. Border security. So that is, I guess, one of the things that he is looking at even in his own campaign and all along those lines. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in that regard. There was a magnitude 6.3 earthquake that struck the Colombian capital in South America as well. So that's something else that I am seeing in the news and around the news and all along those lines. Like I said on yesterday, notorious gang leaders over there in Haiti are warned against deployment of foreign armed forces. So Haiti gang leader has vowed to fight any foreign armed forces if it commits abuses. So that is something that we are seeing along those lines. And it looks like a federal judge has rejected a push to block Florida Chinese land ownership law. So the U.S. Judge won't block Florida law barring Chinese citizens from owning homes. So the Florida law restricts property ownership for people from 7 countries. And I'm guessing that those are countries that we are not having the best relationships with and all along those lines. But that is just what I am thinking at this moment. I may look that up and see if that is actually the case. And like I had mentioned on yesterday, the world's longest, deepest rail tunnel is to close for months after a freight derailment in the Swiss Alps. And UN has suspended services at the Palestinian refugee camp in Lebanon after clashes in that area because militants are still occupying a school in the Palestinian refugee camp in Lebanon. So that is something else that we are seeing in the news and along the news area and all in that space. In Senegal, a village is mourning its son dead at sea in that migrant tragedy. So we do remember that there was a migrant boat that capsized over off of Cape Verde, and over 60 are feared dead in that particular area and along those lines. But we do have a situation with the Camp David event that is going on. So there are different leaders that are having conversations about different things that are going on. And I know that in the U.S., Biden has turned to Camp David diplomacy for the first ever trilateral summit with Japan and South Korea. So Camp David has always had a long history of conversations and talks, and there is this trilateral summit that is taking place as well. So that is something that I am seeing in the news, and West African militaries are meeting to finalize a possible Niger intervention. So that is something that is going on the African continent, and a leading politician says victory for the Niger's coup leaders would be the end of democracy in Africa. So that is something that is going on. And the UN is meeting on North Korea. So the US slams North Korea for using repression to build nuclear weapons. So North Korea defector has spoken or is speaks at a UNSC meeting, and the person was saying that their people have no human rights. So that is something else that is going on, and definitely in the news, we're seeing a number of things, including some groups that are meeting, and definitely there's even the BRICS 2023 summit. So what they're going to be talking about is common courtesy, membership expansion, and of course, Ukraine is on the agenda as well. So they are getting together in South Africa, if I remember correctly. Definitely, now that I think about it, South Africa is one of the BRICS nations. So that is where they are having their meeting at, and we'll be interested to see what people think about the importance of BRICS and whether BRICS is going to have a major impact on the world. And thousands are evacuated as wildfires tear through the Spanish island of Tenerife. So that is something else that I am seeing in the news and around the news as well. So, like I said, all kinds of things are happening in the world as always, and we're always glad on Pod TV to be sharing some of these interesting developments and seeing what people have got to say about them. I know that the West Coast, which has been dealing with a fire, might be dealing with a tropical storm. So Hurricane Hillary has strengthened to a Category 4 storm, but is expected to weaken before bringing rain to the southwest U.S. this weekend. So it could be a lesser threat than folks thought in that space. So definitely that could be some good news as it might be crossing into California. Of course, the tropical storm could also dampen some of those wildfires and get those more under control. So maybe in that sense, it could be a good thing, particularly since it's going to be a weekend storm and all along those lines. And thousands are accounted for after the Maui wildfires. So definitely folks are saying that coral are going to die as Maui wildfires are taking a toxic toll on marine ecology. So the Hawaiian governor has vowed to block land grabs as fire ravaged Maui rebuilds. So I know that, when a tourist area is under distress, there can sometimes be land grabs and people trying to get property at a cheaper cost. So I guess that is what he is saying he will fight against, and all along those lines. And Georgia police are investigating online threats to jurors after a pro-Trump docking campaign. So tweets are overt acts in Trump's indictment, and that is what some folks are saying. So it'll be interesting to see how folks are able to look at these issues and even use social media as they are talking about what is going on. And the Trump's legal team is seeking to delay the federal election case until April of 2026. So that would be well after the whole elections and all along those lines. So Trump's proposed Atlanta court date on Super Tuesday are planned and coordinated, is what one of the ex-attorney generals is saying. And an ex-DOJ lawyer has been charged in Trump case and is assailing the prosecution as political. So definitely there are folks that are thinking that this is a political move by the part of those that are going after him and all along those lines. And one of the other interesting things that I had seen about the election, get ready to bring in folks into the conversation, is that there are folks under the Mitt Romney camp that are asking for the candidates to basically pledge to get behind a anybody but Trump candidate. So I think that they are trying to push people to drop out of the race. I think Tim Scott said that he would be willing to do that if he is the candidate. He didn't say whether he would do it if he wasn't the candidate. And I think that Vivek has basically gone against that idea and all in that space. So it'll be interesting to see what folks have got to say about that, and if that is a worthwhile idea, as I know that the Republicans are getting ready for their debate and all along those lines in Milwaukee. And I was actually surprised that Milwaukee was chosen, because I went to school in Milwaukee, and what I remember of Milwaukee, it is a very liberal to moderate town. I don't ever remember it being overly conservative, but that just could have been my own recollections, and things could have changed. But it does seem to me that that is a unusual city for the Republicans to be choosing to do their debate ad. But I do know that Wisconsin is considered a swing state, or a state that could go either way and everything. So maybe that is why they are picking Milwaukee. I would have thought that they might have gone more for Madison, which I think had more of a conservative kind of attitude. But hey, that is their decision to go for the other side, and maybe they're trying to sway some of the independents, because I do know that there are independents in Milwaukee as well. But like I said, I've always thought of that as being a relatively liberal town. I mean, it is where Marquette and University of Wisconsin Milwaukee are located, so it definitely has a lot of academics and all in that space. But like I said, I was surprised that they chose that particular town, but I will be interested to see what folks have got to say and all along those lines. I'm going to bring in some of my folks. Lee Newton Rhodes is with me, as is Jatovi, as is, of course, Sasha Starr, and all along those lines. So, like I said, I was just getting to some of the news, but I know, Lee, what is your thoughts? So, do you think anybody is actually going to get behind this, anybody but the Trump campaign? And were you as surprised as I was? And like I said, I do know that cities can change their focus. But
Mark, good morning. I'm still startled that they RNC didn't consult with you where they hold the debates. Shocker.
Yeah, I know. Shocker. They didn't consult with me whatsoever.
I'm sure it's an oversight, and apology is going to be forthcoming.
I hope that they will apologize and give me some things, because I am a event coordinator and a consultant. So if they'd asked me, for the right amount of money, I might have gone ahead and given them some advice as where they should have gone. But they didn't consult with me, as you just noted, and all in that space. But on a more serious note, what is your thoughts?
To your question about Trump. Trump could be very, very divisive. I'm sure Shasha will agree with that, and Toby. But for those people who are really fed up with what the federal government is doing and the overreach of what the federal government is doing, and then the lies coming out of the agencies and out of the media, and people are anti-establishment, whether rightfully or not, and I can argue both ways on this, they don't want an establishment politician to be elected. And Trump represents for them, and I think they're making a mistake, and I can go into that. Trump represents for them anti-establishment, pushback, expose, peel the onion. And they won't go for anyone else, because they don't really, even DeSantis, they don't see him as being committed to pushing back. And with me, Trump's whole thing, and I was there in terms of, the deep state, drain the swamp, what have you. He had 4 years. He didn't do it. What makes you think he's going to do it the next 4 years? It's a good argument. It should be drained, but I don't know that he's the person to do it.
Yeah, like I said, I know that Mitt Romney has been putting it and apparently being very aggressive about it. This notion of, I think he's saying by February that that they all need to get behind one candidate that isn't Trump. So it'll be Trump against whoever the candidate is. And like I said, I know that Tim Scott kind of said, as I mentioned earlier, that if he's the candidate, yeah, he'll definitely go for that. He never said whether he would sign it if he is not the candidate. And I think that Vivek, the Indian businessman, basically said, no way, no how, no, that's not going to happen.
No, I think that's what put him in business, in 2016, is you had Trump on one side and 16 other people on the other, which weren't really that much different. And they were dividing up half the pie, and he was taking the other half. And that's what put him in place. And this time, though, people are very committed to him. But if you're going to get lots of other people on the other side, they're not going to get, and push back the majority. He might not get 50%, but he's going to get the majority more than any other candidate. And one of the things, Sasha, I apologize. I think it goes without saying, Trump now is being attacked with lawfare. Whether you think it's political or not, they're coming after him by indicting him. And a lot of people, myself included, are very disappointed. When Trump ran the first time, he ran, among other things, Crooked Hillary. That was his thing. And once he was in office, people said, well, you're going to lock her up? He says, oh, no, she suffered enough. Leave her alone. So which one is it? If you're going to campaign on something, either do it or get out of the way. Let someone else do it. So a lot of people are disappointed that he had to change of heart once he's in office, which is what most politicians do. And I think it's pathetic. Sasha, I apologize.
There's a great difference between 2016 and 2024. In 2016, Trump was basically a known quality. He was convincing in winning the nomination. became president. Okay, everything so far so good. Now we already have a record of his presidency. It's two impeachments, losing the House, losing the Senate, uh, basically losing everything, whatever there was to lose, he lost everything. He's a loser. That's really what Trump is. So instead of saying that, okay, we'll try to do better in 24, here is what we are planning to do. He came up with the incredible lie of stolen election. Build up on that. Now the Republican Party has no other agenda, no other view on what to do as to say the election was stolen, and we support our leader, Donald J. Trump. So today, to win and to repeat what he's done in 2016, with 30% of diehard Trumpers, he's not going to make it. He needs support of a wider coalition, which will bring some Democrats, not many, but maybe few, and of course a lot of undecided independent voters. How they are going with for a man with a track record such as Trump. Now, there is something else I wanted to mention, that in 2016, okay, he won the nomination, and the Republican Assembly, I don't remember how it calls, approved that. So he became official nominee from Republican Party. Guess what? It may not happen this year, even if he is leading in the polls. That may not happen simply because the Republican establishment, they want really to win this presidential race. They understand and they calculate, if they're not stupid, that with Trump on the main ticket, they're not going to make it. Period. There's no mathematical way to do it. Yes?
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Biden got, what, 83 million votes in the last election? Based on his performance, do you think he's going to get more or less than that in the next election, assuming he's the candidate?
You're talking about Trump?
No, Joe Biden. Joe Biden won the last election with like the most votes of any president ever. That's my understanding. Like okay. 83 million. And Trump had like 81 million on the popular votes. Do you think that 83 million is going to go north or south?
I'm so sorry, Lee. Your numbers are incorrect. Trump lost almost 8 million popular votes, not 2 million as you suggest.
I thought it was 83 to 81 million. What was
no. Check your numbers, please.
What were the numbers?
7 million was at least. Over 7 million.
Okay, so I stand corrected. So Biden had how many? Was it 83 or am I wrong with the 83?
82 or 83, I don't remember.
Something like that. Okay, whatever the number is. Do you think it's going to go north or south, the number of votes he's going to get in the next election?
He may go slightly south. He may go north from it. I think he will go probably slightly south because the number what he's got in 2020 was incredibly high. So he may go somewhat lower, but I think Trump will go way much lower from the 2020 numbers.
If Trump is going to go way much lower, aren't those people going on the Biden side then? So Biden should go probably close to 90 then. If Trump is going way much lower.
I'm
just trying to do the math.
It depends on how many voters will come and turn their votes.
I think a lot will stay home.
Really? Why is that?
I mean, because a lot of the country still is, I mean, according to the polls, still not up for a Trump-Biden rematch.
Right.
But I think a lot more of the GOP or those right-leaning individuals will stay home if it's Trump versus Biden. I don't think Biden's going to get a ton more votes. I don't think Trump is going to get a ton more votes. I think a lot of people may end up staying home.
Even though people overall are very happy with their vote on Biden? They want him back in office? And they don't want to take a chance on Trump?
Nobody wants to take a chance on Trump.
So that's what I'm thinking. So why would you not expect Biden his votes to go north then?
just because I think a lot of independents, even when Biden beat Trump, a lot of independents still voted for Biden over Trump. And this time, the independents are breaking still more. They're breaking even more so for Biden than Trump.
Right.
And the diehards for Trump are still going to be there.
I got that.
Trump at that time, I mean, yes, there are a lot of people, as you stated at the beginning, that are sympathetic and because of the indictments. I disagree that they're lies or anything else and people have bought into the whole idea that, it's being weaponized, regardless of the fact that Trump is campaigning that he's going to use the government to go after people. Talk about weaponizing the government, the hypocrisy there. So the idea, there are many Republicans that will not vote for a convicted felon.
I got that. So in other words, they should go in the Biden camp.
No, they won't vote. It's not that they're going to vote just because. A lot of people will stay home because they won't vote. If Trump isn't the nominee for the Republican Party, a lot of that base will not vote. So you're losing more from that base because Trump is not going to be the candidate.
You say they're just going to sit out.
Yes, they will. That's the thing. That's why the Republican Party is catering and kowtowing to anything and everything and defending Trump, even though Trump broke the law. Because if you think about the ridiculousness of Biden's using the government to weaponize it against his GOP candidate. Well, only Trump is actually up for indictments and crimes. There are multiple other candidates.
There are other people that are being pulled into this now in Georgia and other places.
No. Chris Christie is not on trial. Ramaswamy is not on trial.
No, I didn't say candidates. I said other people.
That's what I'm saying. Their argument and Trump's whole campaign base and the GOP are saying that Biden is using the Department of Justice to attack his rivals. The only one up on trial is Trump.
Well, right now, that's the only one that has a reasonable chance of winning.
The only one up on trial. It's not that now Ramaswamy's now in the lead. Now the Biden. No, it's not. It's just that Trump and the GOP have been able to take that narrative, even though it's a false narrative, and sell it. Nobody else is up on trial. Nobody is even thinking about putting anybody else on trial. Trump broke the law. And we're either saying...
Well, that's not actually a correct statement. In fairness, what you should say is he's been alleged to have broken the law.
Trump broke the law. He literally...
I'm not an attorney. I just know that not all indictments, you know this, are guilty. Mark would agree with that statement.
What he did broke the law.
What he is alleged to have done.
He was on tape calling the...
I get all that you're saying. There's no conviction yet, Sasha. There's no conviction yet, Sasha.
About weaponizing of Department of Justice and all of this, what Trump and his people are alleging. The January 21st happened already 2.5 years ago. Did Department of Justice move against Trump right then, 6 months later, 1 year later, 1.5 years later? No, they didn't. But they had to do something after there was a hearing in January 21st, which was televised, and there so many people saw it, and it was so obvious. And by the way, all the testimonials are coming from Republicans. All the witnesses on all these trials will be Republicans alone. Yeah. There are no Democrats. There are no somebody who say, well, he's Republican, I want to sue him. No, all Republicans are going to testify.
And that's the thing, is that, again, the GOP and everybody talk, and this whole idea of weaponizing the government. Well, it's all Republicans that are testifying against them. Weaponizing the government. Well, the only thing that Jim Jordan is doing is actually going after Hunter Biden, which they're using as propaganda to say that Hunter Biden and the Biden family is so corrupt. It's just messaging.
Jacoby,
So, what?
the Biden family is squeaky clean. Is that what you're saying?
Where is the proof that Joe Biden was tied to any of this? Lee, there's no proof. Jim Comey Cromer, whatever his name that's running this investigation, who's got, what's his name? The Republican guy who's been pushing this idea, talking about, oh, well, the laptop. Well, the laptop had nude photos of Hunter Biden. Is that really what we're so up in arms about? Nude photos? Oh, well, he was out there with Ukraine. He made money off his dad. So Jared Kushner and his $1 billion deal, and Ivanka Trump and her 20 plus copyright, that means nothing. That's not what we're. So we're.
Excuse me, I'm not familiar with the Jared Kushner thing, but just a question. If you want to compare them, I'm not familiar with it. Okay, but if you're going to compare them, I have a curiosity. Did Jared Kushner have various LLCs where they kept wiring money back and forth and hide it and not declare it?
Lee, to explain the Jared Kushner thing, Jared Kushner could not get security clearance. His father had to grant him security clearance because he could not get security clearance.
Wait, Jared Kushner's father?
Or father-in-law, my apologies,
father-in-law,
had to give him security clearance because he could not get security clearance. Then Jared Kushner was put in charge of Middle East.
No, I get all that. My question was he hiding the money or was it on the top of the table? That's all. That's only my question.
I'm trying to get there. So Jared Kushner in these Middle East peace talks had never run all this others, had never done anything.
I get all that.
But the Saudi government gave him $1 billion. What?
I get all that. I'm not arguing on that. Okay. I'll grant you that.
So Jared Kushner getting all this money. If
you're missing my point, maybe I wasn't clear on my point.
Okay.
Did Jared Kushner declare this as income? Did he hide it? Did he wire it through numerous LLCs?
So wait a second.
That's all I'm asking. Was there tax evasion there?
Lee, so your argument for the Hunter Biden thing is you're saying this whole conspiracy thing of hiding all this money, that's a problem because what was the ultimate goal? Getting favors is what you're saying that Hunter Biden did, is that these areas, China or whatever, got favors through Hunter Biden from Joe Biden, correct? Is that what this boils down to?
What I'm saying is there's tax evasion charges that we're talking about.
But he's already pled to those.
Okay, so you agree then that the Hunter Biden thing, there's a problem with the law with tax evasion. But if you can't compare that to Jared Kushner.
No, wait. So Hunter Biden is already guilty of those.
Gotcha. Okay, fine. So you can't compare them then because Jared Kushner was never.
No, you can. What is the problem then? If he's already pled guilty, then what does that have to do with Joe Biden?
That's a separate issue.
No,
I was just pushing back a little bit because I said I don't know if you compare the Jared Kushner with Hunter Biden in terms of all aspects.
Hunter Biden is a private citizen, so why are they going after Hunter Biden? He's a private citizen. He's not in government, was never in government. He's a private citizen. So now you're saying that the government, the Republican Party, is doing right by government by using the government to go after a private citizen.
I have a question for you, and this I'm not clear on. I'm just throwing this out there. Are presidents while in office or any politicians allowed to take bribes?
Hunter Biden wasn't a president.
No, I didn't bring up Hunter Biden's name. I just said, are politicians allowed to take bribes while in office?
Hunter Biden wasn't a politician.
Mark, did I mention Hunter Biden's name?
No, but I hear what you're saying, and I would argue just to answer your question, and I can be proven incorrect, but I think that a number of presidents on both sides of the aisle have had questionable business deals, and some people may consider those bribery or a number of other things. I mean, if you look at even like I think it was Reagan that Noriega was the whole situation with the drugs and everything. And that was definitely had some illegal aspects to it and was definitely the reason that there was the whole Iran gate. And I mean, that was an Iran gate, but definitely there was the
Sorry,
whole,
Sasha wants to come back in, Mark.
All of those are presidents. All of those are politicians. Hunter Biden is a private citizen who's not a politician.
I get that. I'm just throwing a question out there. In terms of robbery, are politicians allowed while in office to take bribes?
But again, Lee, the point is, Jared Kushner was a politician. He was in office.
Got that.
Hunter Biden was not.
no, I got what you're saying, but just to
So
ask another quick question that's kind of related to what you're saying, Lee, and everything. Can't you make the argument? And I don't know that everybody would agree, but there is a number of organizations that are out there, whether it is the NRA, whether it is the pharmaceutical industry, whether it is a number of other things that are lobbies. Lobbies oftentimes are using their money and their influence in order to win support for a number of things. There is the argument that is out there, and I know that there have been whole discussions around how much should be allowed from these organizations, that in a way is a form of bribery. Because if you're putting the money into the campaign, don't you expect something back? It comes down to that whole mafia mentality and everything. So if you're giving a lot of money and you are wanting something in return, whether you're on the left side, so we'll use like the unions as an example, or whether you're on the right, and I'll use the NRA as an example, don't you want something in return? And some people would say that is a form of bribery.
I agree with you, Mark.
Yeah. I mean,
I agree with that. The lobbyists are basically they're bribing people.
Right.
But I mean, and that's why, I mean, I guess to not belabor the point, but the Hunter Biden issue, which is what the GOP is campaigning on and complaining that the Justice Department is unfair to Trump. Well, again, Hunter Biden was never a politician. Hunter Biden wasn't a president or anything. So why is the government coming down heavy-handed, and why are we having all these things on Hunter Biden when he's just a private citizen?
And Jacoby, on the flip side of that,
And you would say the same thing to Don Jr.
Well, that's what I'm going to say. On the flip side of that, that's what I'm going to say. I know that.
Yeah,
I'm not sure about Don Jr., but I know that
Jared
and a couple of the other ones actually had offices in the within the administration. Because I think that both Jared and I want to say a couple of the other family members actually had offices that were in there. So there was some nepotism that was going on, and I'm not saying that there isn't.
No, that's a separate issue. I get that. I get that.
And so that's why
we had that with JFK also with his brother.
Yeah, and that's why, like I said, when the GOP is campaigning on this Hunter issue, it doesn't make any sense. And when we bring up the Hunter issue, it doesn't make any sense, other than politically. And
Jacoby, speaking of things that don't make any sense politically, and I'd love to hear both of your thoughts about this, but I'm going to go back to the other candidates and all along those lines. But if you look at sports, one of the gross injustices that you can have in sports is to give away your playbook. And apparently that's what happened with DeSantis, because the New York Times reported yesterday that there are documents out there online that were supposed to be kept under wrap, but it's basically his debate strategy. So it's complete with specific instructions on what to say and do. Defend Donald Trump if Chris Christie attacks you. Go after Joe Biden and the media 3 to 5 times. Take a sledgehammer to your closest competitor, which is Vivek Ramaswamy, and give him a Trump-style nickname like Fake Vivek or Vivek the Fake, and do all of these other things. But it seems to me that is one of those horrible cases of somebody that is in your camp that maybe doesn't like you releasing all of this, because I know in the sports world, if you give those kind of things away, that's where you lose a lot of games. I think we saw that with the Patriots and some other folks that were able to kidnap signals and able to find reasons that they were able to win more strongly because they already knew what the opposition was going to do. So I'm trying to figure out why the folks did it, unless they were folks that were disgruntled within his campaign. But any thoughts about this playbook that was basically given away? DeSantis is already in trouble, and I'm thinking that this doesn't help him, even though to add to that, they are also going after Trump as being too weak to debate, because like I said, he's got a 50-point lead. So why bother to debate? Well, maybe not 50 points, but a sizable lead. But there are folks that are trying to paint him as being weak. And I think that there is a pro DeSantis PAC that is putting out a ad to that impact, or to that kind of notion and everything. But what is y'all's thoughts about some of these other strategies that are coming up from the other side, whether it is Mitt Romney asking everybody to go under one candidate, or whether it is folks maneuvering things in order to influence the campaign one way or the other. Is anybody going to gain any traction? Is what I'm really asking.
Mark, don't you think that it's quite risky for Trump to miss the debate? Because one possibility is that all others will gang up on him, and it's very easy to do because with all these accusations and indictments and everything else, there's nothing easier for them to do and look good to just go after Trump all the way and say what a liar he is, what a failure he is, what a loser he is, and no. They don't need anything else. That will eliminate him for quite a bit.
No, Sasha, but I hear that. But if you are 50 points ahead, and if the candidates all go gung-ho against him, isn't there the added risk that you just further mobilize that base, because they're going to be like, hey, we got to get behind our guy, because everybody from the existing administration to his opponents are all ganging up on him. So
no, there's no risk of any kind, because right now, as it stands, Trump will overpower all of them put together easily and will win the race. So the only chance to change something is to gang up on him, and because it will be televised and there will be millions of people watching it, to say, guys, we are looking at loser, we are looking at person who is incapable to run the government, United States of America. He has already proven that many times. So let's just do something what's right for the United States, for Republican Party. Okay, that will hurt him more than anything else.
Chris Christie is doing that, and Chris Christie is losing in the polls. Yes, it's because, again, they've created Frankenstein. Frankenstein is Trump. Trump has a ton of followers, and the GOP won't go after him, because if you attack Trump, he's already said they're attacking me. So those followers, again, it's right now they're in a tough sell. They've got to figure out how to navigate the waters of not ticking off the MAGA people and all the Marjorie Taylor Greens and who's campaigning to try and be his vice president, which she stated that, it'd be such a great honor. So you've got that whole wing of the party, because if Trump is not there, they're not voting. And Chris Christie right now is doing well in Democrat voters, actually independents, because he's trying to get out there and say this is it. But he's not going to make it out of the Republican primary. It's because that Republican primary right now is so gung-ho for Trump, and they see this giant wing that he brought in, and they don't want to tick those people off, and because they know if they tick those people off, that group is staying home. They're not coming out.
You tell me, but isn't Trump also playing to the political situation?
Mark, I guess this is to all y'all. Mark, huh? I just got a question. I know Trump said he questioned whether he's going to show up or not to the debates. What's the downside to him? He's still getting lots of people to his rallies. He's still got this base that's very strong. He appears to be a good debater or performer or whatever you want to call him on these things. Why would he not show up?
I mean, for the same reason, this is my theory, for the same reason that he just canceled the press conference. Because, I mean, Trump definitely had, he claimed irrefutable reports claiming election fraud in Georgia and a number of other things. But then he canceled the press conference on election fraud claims, citing his attorney's advice. But the other thing is to what Sasha just alluded to, which is that if you are attacked and you make one of those gaffes, or you make one of those errors that people are able to refute very quickly and able to prove that there is a lie involved, then that can erode your base. So yes, there are those that.
If he hasn't done it by now, he's not going to do it. And if he has done it, no one really cares, or
he has more to lose than to gain.
Right.
If he by
really.
So, for example, as an analogy, there are tons of musicians out there that have beautiful voices. Most of them will not do the national anthem. They will not sing it. One, it's a tough song to sing because of the tones and everything. And you have that great singer has a huge fan base. If they go out there and accidentally butcher or sound horrible on the national anthem, their fans may start to waver on if they can really sing or if they're a studio sounding person.
I find that interesting what you're saying.
But I mean, it's real. Talking with a lot of people trying to get them to sing the national anthem.
But there are some exceptions to what you just said. Listen to Whitney Houston singing the national anthem. Listen to Whitney Houston 10 times in a row.
Marvin Gaye, or Anita Baker, all of them. Some of them sing it, but the majority of them won't, because it's a chance that they might sound bad that one day. If they sound bad, look at Mariah Carey. What's the thing that we pick on Mariah Carey about? The times when she sounds horrible.
It's everybody. That's life, unfortunately. People look at mistakes. They don't look at successes.
But that's not the way that it happens in that influencer world. They have those fans, and they have those individuals that will follow them tooth and nail, die hard. If they make a gaffe, especially if they're on a stage and they look weak against somebody, like if Chris Christie, Ron DeSantis, Ramaswamy, Tim Scott, Nikki Haley, all coming at this guy, and he looks weak, feeble, and slow, people are going to question him, and he loses.
This is to everybody. Do you think it's a stronger Republican crowd now versus 2016 that Trump would have to debate?
It's probably a stronger looking debate group, but they're all kissing Trump behind. And the thing is, if they get out there and debate and really go after Trump, which they won't, but if they go after him and
why would they not do that? Why are they there if they don't go after him?
Again, it's that whole MAGA wing.
I don't get that.
Whole MAGA base that you.
And that's on both parties. You know, if you watch the first, with Hillary and Sanders, the Democratic debate, you had 3 other 1%ers that are just sitting there with their hands crossed. Like, why are you showing up if you're not going after the big guy?
Now, remember, after Hillary won, Hillary had to go and do her best to try and fix that fracture in the base. So she didn't go out and attack Bernie. Bernie actually even tried to help with the Bernie Bros. So that's the same thing with Trump. They know that if Trump loses, that fracture that's going to happen with the MAGA wing and so on and so forth, Trump's not bringing that group back. Trump's taking those people with him. And Trump is going to keep those people.
Lee, hold on a second. Lee, to answer your question really quickly, I think we see even in the Biden administration, the reason that some people, and it's not just Biden, it was Reagan, it was Bush, it was a number of other ones, but a lot of times, even after you realize that you have lost you are sometimes campaigning for future speaking gigs. You're sometimes campaigning for future jobs. I'm sure that Pete Buttigieg was already thinking about possible positions in the Biden administration once he realized that he was not going to win, and there was those conversations going on. So I'm sure that is going on now. Tim Scott and some of the others on the Republican side are probably lobbying for various jobs within the Trump administration, should there be a second Trump administration. So I do think that sometimes people are thinking about their future, whether that is on the speaking trail or whether that is within the administration offices.
They're putting their own futures ahead of God and country.
They voted for, they're going behind Trump. So yes.
Tasha?
I read a book by Woodward about Donald Trump, and he interviewed several people, including Jared Kushner. And Kushner admitted openly that Trump has completed a takeover of Republican Party. So Republican Party of today is nothing but party of Trump. And his base, by the way, which is also bringing the money and so on. So imagine that Trump, will not become a nominee of the Republican Party. He will lose 1 or 2 or more lawsuits. Biden will win the presidency. What's going to happen with the Republican Party? Now, the same party without its icon, Donald Trump, without its Proud Boys and all those organizations and this MAGA supporters and the base of 30%. Where is all that? You have to go from the scratch to build the party, to find what's your agenda.
Sasha, I get your point, and I have the same question you do. Even if Trump was elected again, he's only elected for one more term. What happens after Trump? Where are the Republicans going? I don't see anyone there. I don't see any depth.
But isn't that the same argument that people are making on both sides? Because both sides
yes.
of the
there's no depth on the Democrats either. It's very sad. They're not grooming anyone.
What ends up happening is that person becomes, and Trump wants to be the kingmaker. So Trump is going to pinpoint who he wants to throw in there. Again, that's why everybody's trying to out-Trump Trump. If you look at DeSantis, that's what he tried. Well, he's still trying. Ramaswamy, every word out of Ramaswamy's mouth is, I will do this for Trump. I will pardon Trump. I will do. He is, and then, yeah. So Ramaswamy is.
Do you think Ramaswamy is doing a Hail Mary just in case Trump doesn't make it to the finishing line?
Yeah.
Sounds like it also.
And Ramaswamy thanked his campaign when he tried to do the Eminem rap.
I heard about it, but I didn't see it.
Yep.
We tried to do an Eminem rap
on that one.
Jacoby, this doesn't make you feel good. You'll never see me doing that.
Come on, Lee, you got to do it. One of these days,
do it right now. Yeah, all of Pod TV is waiting for the Eminem rap coming from Lee Newton Rose, and then it'll be followed by some refrain from none other than.
The best you're going to get me to do is a barbershop quartet with the four of us.
Hey, don't sleep on Mark. Mark can spit that hot fire.
Yeah, keep on believing that if you want to. But the interesting thing about Vivek is that he is definitely to appeal to that base that you're talking about, because just yesterday on social media, he called 10 truths, and he released what he called the 10 truths to social media, and there were references to faith, gender, and capitalism. So while he's seeking, he said that God is real. There are only two genders, and he also promoted the importance of fossil fuel, condemned reverse racism, defended the role of parents in choosing their own children's education, and boost the U.S. Constitution as the strongest guarantee of freedom in history. If all of that isn't playing toward the MAGA base, I don't know what is, because it does seem like that is where he was going in that particular case. Because he literally put out a list, and I named some of them, but it's human fluorescence requires fossil fuels. 4, reverse racism is racism. 5, an open border is no border. 6, parents determine the education of their children. 7, the nuclear family is the greatest form of governance known to mankind. 8, capitalism lifts people up from poverty. 9, there are 3 branches of the U.S. government, not 4. And 10, the U.S. Constitution is the strongest guarantee of freedom in history. That 3 branches, I'm not sure if he was cracking on the press or the courts. He could have been cracking on either and everything, but I'll be curious to know where he was going with that, because the 4 is known as what journalism is, and that is what it's supposed to do. So that is a kind of thing that is out there in the public. So I'll be curious to know where he was exactly going with that 3 branches of the U.S. government, not 4.
That's the press, I think. I think he's referring to the press.
I know
the press is not a branch of the government.
It's not an official part, but it is the 4th estate. I mean, it's been labeled as the 4th estate ever since, I want to say, the Jefferson era and everything. So I figured he was referring to the press, but I mean, it is an unofficial part of the government. It has been for decades, if not centuries, because I mean, it is kind of one of those checks and balances kind of things as well. So I figured that's where he was going, but I don't know that I, as a member of the press, agree with that notion, but I figured that that's where he was going in that space. And the other thing then becomes a question of what is the press, because the press is very fragmented, and there's a lot of citizen journalists, and some of those citizen journalists are expounding some of those conspiracy theories that we were talking about as well. So that's a whole nother conversation, is how detailed and how fractured is the press at this particular time.
Well, that's all. Yeah, the press is fractured because we're fractured.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. Hey, there is a person that is celebrating their birthday later on today, and well, they're actually celebrating today with their husband, who is, definitely in hospice and all in that space. But today is Rosalind Carter's birthday, and all along those lines. And of course, she is celebrating with her husband, Jimmy Carter. Peanut butter ice cream, and I guess butterflies were on the list of things that they were going to be involved with as they are celebrating. So, what are people's thoughts around the legacy of Rosalind Carter, and how important are first ladies in general, whether it is the current first lady of Joe Biden, or whether it's Melania Trump, who we just mentioned earlier, or whether it's Michelle Obama, or a number of other ones. But how important are the first ladies, and what is folks' thoughts about Rosalind Carter? Anybody?
I had nothing negative to say about Jimmy or in terms of them, their personhood. Policy is a different issue, but I think they were just upstanding, really good people, both of them.
Yeah,
and Jimmy, more so than other presidents, gave back to the community after he left office in ways that I think should be commended.
No, I would agree with that. He definitely was a humanitarian, and I think still remains a humanitarian, and all along those lines. So I can definitely see that as being something very much commendable, and all along those lines. Sasha, I know that in a few minutes we're going to get to Ukraine, Russia, and China, but I did see, and I did mention earlier in the news and the news items, that the F-16s are on their way. So is this going to be the turning point that we have been looking for in that particular battle? Because they are saying that once the people are trained, because they definitely want them to be trained, and I guess they're coming from Denmark and the Netherlands. But does this mean that we will see the end of the war before the end of this year once they get that training, or is this just part of what is going on? But I did see that was approved from the U.S. and all along those lines. But what is your take on?
Well, there is a chance
on this approval, and how long will it take the Ukrainian soldiers to get trained in it?
There is a chance that Ukraine will get these F-16 fighters before the end of the year. The training is underway, as I understand. Now, I would think that Ukrainian pilots will be very adaptable to a new technique, and they will be very quick to figure out all the details and so on. So I don't rule that out. Most likely the next year, because there will be a great Ukrainian attack on Russian positions in around spring of next year. So they definitely have to be there before the spring of next year. Maybe some of them will arrive even later this year. I think it's finally a breakthrough. And what they need is ATACMS missiles. And this could be supplied. There is no training required. That could be supplied almost instantly, and should have been supplied a long time ago. Before the Ukrainian attack, which started 2 months ago, it would be way much more effective if Ukraine had ATACMS missiles. And with F-16s, they would already get Russians out of Ukrainian territory. But it will happen. It will happen anyway.
That looks like that's going to be happening, and that looks like that'll be some good news and everything. So you're thinking that we might see an end to the war before the end of this year, and all along those lines. So that
no, there will be no end of war by the end of this year. But there are good chances that the war will be over sometimes next year after decisive Ukrainian attack. There is no negotiations, no under the table deals. There is nothing will turn situation around except Ukrainian victory on the battlefield. That's what will make the difference.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense and everything. I know the other thing, and how are things going in terms of the COVID numbers? Because I know that I think Jacoby mentioned recently when we were talking about the games that I went to over the weekend that the numbers are spiking, and I'm thinking that they're spiking definitely in some of the major metropolitan areas. So I definitely got a email recently from a friend of mine that said that they had got something from the CDC asking people to go back to wearing masks because of the spike. So I was just wondering if you are hearing similar things up there in the New York, New Jersey area, because that is something else that I saw.
No, I'm hearing people are getting it, but I think for the most part, people just want to get on with their lives and treat COVID the way they treat all their illnesses. If you're sick, stay home, see a doctor. And if you're not, go for, have a normal life, whether that's work, whether that's school, shopping, sports. But, no, people are not quarantining just because, the most part, I don't see it. People they're not afraid to go out anymore. 3 years ago, people, were afraid, rightfully or not. Now people are just, okay, there's COVID. Now what?
Toby, what's your thoughts on that? Because like I said, you're the one that mentioned to me about.
No one's running out to get vaccinated anymore.
There's still people getting vaccinated. Matter of fact,
I didn't say that. I said most people are not. You're not seeing lines, incentives the way they were 2-3 years ago.
I mean, I think also the big reason we're not seeing lines and all the other stuff is because it's more available as it used to be. But also, I agree. A lot of people, due to the medicines that are out now, since we now have some treatments for it.
Speaking of medicines, what's with the 180 with the ivermectin and all these other things that now all of a sudden are hydrochloric? A couple of years ago, CDC said, you're not a horse. What are you taking it for? Now they say, oh, it's okay, take it.
I haven't seen any change in ivermectin or.
I saw 180 on that one with the CDC.
Yeah, I got to find that one.
Yeah, I can see that too. That they changed their position. Is that what you're saying that they did? And
Yeah.
Did a 180 turnaround in terms of their view and everything? Is that what you're saying, Lee? That they did?
That's what I heard.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that yet either, but I do some research along those lines.
No, ivermectin's still not FDA approved as COVID remedy.
I'll have to see where I saw the article.
Yeah, because ivermectin is so. Ivermectin deals with what? Is it a bacteria or something? And COVID is a virus, so it's not going to have any effect. That wouldn't really do anything. Two separate things.
Am I mixing it up with I think I can't even say that other one. Chloroquine.
Chloroquine.
Could be.
There was one of them that came out and they changed the.
Well, I mean, there's also the notion of what's going on even in Florida. There's hours of delays and drop calls, which they're saying are keeping some of the Hispanic families away from going and getting stuff, because apparently in that area there is a Medicaid scam that is going on that involves the whole COVID situation as well. And apparently that is targeting some of the Hispanic community. So there are also scams that are coming up as well, whether they are government scams or whether they are agency scams or a number of other things in that space and everything. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. Well, this has been another interesting conversation on a day, and we're ready to wrap it up. I know that Sasha has got his show coming up very shortly, and we'll be dealing further into the Ukraine, Russia, China situation. Do you know if Ivan's going to be appearing to us from Ukraine, or is it going to be you and Jonathan, or do we know as of yet?
Unfortunately, Ivan, in the last 2-3 weeks, he was unable to participate in shows. Maybe it will change at the end of summer, September coming. So on Tuesday, he is always with us, and he provides very valuable clips that we can all see. But on Fridays, he was unavailable. But it may change soon. And right now, I'd like to thank you all who are going to see the show. Last show was very, very interesting, and today's show will be quite interesting too.
Sounds good. And we do have a listener that was chiming in. I'm not familiar with who they are, but apparently Keneen Dennis Kizzy was watching and was saying hello to us and all along those lines. And it looks like they were coming at us from LinkedIn. So they were definitely engaged and watching our conversation. But on that note, we're getting ready to get out of here. I think we have a few guests that'll be on next week and all along those lines, but we'll have some more interesting conversations on next week, as well as get ready to wrap up. But there are lots of other shows that are coming up this week on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday on the network, including one around bullying and including one around women leadership. But we're going to get on out of here, and I'll see you guys on Monday, along with some of the other guests that come in, as well as some of our other regular panelists. But another fun conversation, and we got into some interesting things. And Lee, yes, they do need to consult with me, so have them make a call, since I know you know the Republicans all that well. So give them my number and see if they need a good consultant. I will not charge them exorbitantly, but Jacoby is my agent along with Sasha, so they do need to pay out of their.
He gets 10% from the big guy.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm still waiting on my 10% then.
Exactly.
Y'all have a good weekend.
Y'all take it easy.